Okay guys, it was raining yesterday but today it's just cloudy, so I'm going to attempt to make a bow drill ember using oak bark as my cordage. I've got a fallen oak branch here. I'm just going to neaten it up a bit. Oak has a very thick outer bark and that's not what I want. I want to get at the inner bark underneath. So I'm just going to use my knife to very carefully slice off the top layer of bark. So I'm going to keep cutting off the outer bark. Okay, what I'm going to do now is split it into nice thin pieces that can be reverse wrapped later. I think that this pink bit on the top layer here is still actually the outer bark, so I'm going to get rid of it by snapping the bark like that, so that this pink bit on top snaps, and then I'm just going to peel off the pink bit on the top. So once I've peeled all the pink stuff off on the outside, I'm left with this nice white inner layer. In order to separate the two layers of bark, once you've cracked it like this, you then want to push and pull up so that this bit here starts to separate from the bark underneath. Then once you've pushed off enough to hold onto it, you pull like this. You want to pull with slightly more force on the top layer of bark that you don't want. If you pull harder on the bottom layer, which is the layer you want, then you risk tearing this layer. Okay, I've now got enough bark to make at least 2 bowstrings. So what I'm going to do is dry it out on this log and then rehydrate it later. To make my spindle and hearthboard, I'm going to use this piece of hazel. It's dead but hasn't yet started to rot. I want a long spindle because it's easier to use, but I don't want it to be longer than my knee, so maybe 10 centimeters below my knee, about there. This is a nice straight piece of wood, which is good. Okay guys, my set's finished now. Here's the spindle. I've tapered it down for the side that goes into the bearing block, and I've also tapered it down for the side that goes into the hearthboard. I've left the middle bit quite fat because this helps with grip, because the cordage has more contact area with the spindle. For the hearthboard, I've made it fairly thin. This means that I don't have to build up as much dust. For the bearing block, I'm using a piece of oak that I used to get the cordage from. I split it down the middle with my knife. So this bark has been drying on this table now for about 5 hours. I'm now going to soak it in water for about 5 to 10 minutes, just so that its flexibility is increased again. Okay, I'm now going to reverse wrap the bark. I like to have a cord that's slightly smaller than the width of my pinky finger. You want to make sure that your reverse wrap is really tight for bow drill cord. A tip for making reverse wrapping easier is to put the end of your cord on a stick, and this way you can apply tension while you wrap, and this just helps to get it tighter. Okay, so I've now got 2 bow drill cordages. I'm just going to trim off the excess. Okay, so I've re-soaked my cord again, just to make sure it's extra flexible. For my bow, I'm going to use this split piece of hazel here. Now that the cord's inside the bow, I'm going to twist it. This tightens the cord and makes it less likely to snap. And it greatly strengthens the cord as well. I'm going to be using a handheld bowstring method. I've got a video on this that I'll put in the description. I'm going to triple wrap the cord around the spindle for extra grip. I'm angling my bow down so the cord doesn't row, and I'm slightly angling my spindle as well. To tighten the cord, I press the end of the bow against my leg. Okay, we're burnt in. I'm going to hang this up so that the cord doesn't get mud on it. Make sure not to put the end of your spindle on the mud. I'm going to save this dust produced by putting it on my ember pan. I'm now going to carve my notch. I want to go to just before halfway, not quite to the centre. I'm then going to undercut the notch so that more air can get to the dust part. I'm now going to lubricate the bearing block with a bit of daffodil stem. I'm also going to retwist the cord. You don't want it to kink. You want just enough so that it doesn't kink. Okay, now I'm going to do my final burst of speed. Okay, we've got an ember. I'm going to make sure my hands are dry, and I'm going to put the excess dust around the divot on top of the ember. I'm now going to mould it into shape with my hands. Okay, I'm now just going to let that establish itself. For my tinder bundle, I'm going to be using dead bracken. You want to get the finest bits in the centre. Okay, this is ready to put in the tinder bundle. Okay. I've got fire, guys. For more tips and tricks, check out my bow drill tips and tricks video. I'll put the link in the description.